I'm gonna pass it to you, Dave. And then, you all, and then you can start our remote session down below.
So yeah, we're going to cover webhooks, but also Experience Builder and a Survey 123 embed into Experience Builder today. So the city has what's called the Adopt a Spot program. You and or a group can adopt a street or a block downtown, just blocks downtown, or a trail. And essentially, it's a program where you clean up the whatever you've signed up for however many times you want to clean it up at whatever frequency. And so it's just a volunteer program essentially. Anytime you see those signs that's like adopted by whatever the organization is, that's what this is. And you can get a sign if you do it. I think it's 4 times per year. So it's a cool program, trying to incentivize volunteering and obviously as we have an ever-growing amount of trash, just cleaning up and keeping the city and the trails beautiful. So they had, I don't actually know, they didn't have it running this way before. Obviously, it was more of just like a call-in type thing. I think for the blocks we were providing a web map for them, but they didn't have a map for streets and they didn't have a map for trails. So I think people would call in to see if they could volunteer for like the river trail is all that I think has been volunteered for years. But they got a grant to sort of revamp the program, and they saw something from City of Seattle that this is modeled after, to see if we could provide tools. And Marcus, you're looking very,
yeah.
What's the?
So any group can,
Yeah.
so if you make your group like the GIS user group.
You could do that.
Yeah, or I mean, couldn't an individual?
Yeah, an individual can do it as well.
Marcus,
It's typically a group, but yes, you totally could.
Make it your own creative, like eggplant growers of Northern California.
You could literally be
Whatever you want.
Yes, you can do that.
And you get signed.
I'm sure that there are some limitations that there, but yes, yes, you can do that. Yeah. So anyway, it worked out for them because I think they got to use that money for other parts of the program because they already pay into our budget and we were able to provide the tools. So yeah, again, this was modeled after Seattle. Seattle did it an odd way where they created a map and then had their residents draw in the sections that they were going to adopt. I didn't like that at all because 1, I don't think people are that tech savvy, and 2, I don't trust them to not get on there and draw things that they shouldn't draw.
Yeah.
So we did it a little bit differently, but essentially you go to this form or you come to this city page, and then it'll link out to our experience builder. They actually kind of did a redundancy here because our sign up is built into the experience builder. So they really don't even need this part in here, which I told them, but I guess they haven't fixed yet. And it links out to this. So here's our adopt a spot map. And, as I said, there's 3 options. So street, block, trail, and a member of the public would come in. This also hasn't been updated because we have a number of streets that are adopted. Brooke has forgotten how to do the updates. That's why she emailed me yesterday.
That's
a
why.
tutorial on how to. So instead of residents drawing in their own, which I did not like the idea of, we had this set up. So, and the webhooks are what's used to notify our person in community services that sort of runs this and does all the coordination. And so she then does the updating of the features in here. So, if I'm Ragu, Ragu group, and I want to adopt Port Street, I have details in here about, running through, we're a group, say, review. This is actually set so that it has to be in the format of an email address.
Someone probably owns that domain.
Someone probably does that. Street. And then the way that it's set up is we broke it down into mostly, and it's not all streets, obviously, it's just arterials and collectors, it's not local streets. And I broke it into around half-mile segments is what community services wanted. It varies, but yeah, about half a mile. And the way that we can tell which segment it is this adoption start and end point. So, you put in your, and this is how Brooke will know which segment. So I'll finish this in a second after we've gone over the webhooks.
So those, that drop down, how does it know when to populate those?
The drop down.
From the end, from the beginning to the end, when you.
So it's not a drop down. So if you're going through the map, I want to adopt, downtown, this section of Pine Street.
Oh, and then you type in Eureka Way, you type in.
Yeah, in the pop-up, you see what the start point is. So this is where the work needs to be done. It starts at Eureka, goes to
There are
Plattsburgh.
ways to optimize this. I'm not going to steal your thunder, because I think this is pretty awesome. But if you think through Arcade or any way we can optimize it, as a person can pick the segment that they want, and it populates data into the form. Just throwing that out there on maybe future enhancements if that's even.
Yeah, there's probably a good way to do it. Well, again, I wanted to limit the actual amount of the public changing the data. Because I could have set this up to where they could have, seen what's adopted and not adopted, and then they could actually change the status to adopted and put in their information, but I don't know. I don't have nefarious
Right, and
intentions
how is
for-
it more of just
for adopt program.
streamlining the form process or whatever?
I guess it would have to assume that what you clicked on is automatically the one you want to adopt, and so if it was to pull that over, is that the idea, right? Like,
Yes, well, and then you're like, no, I didn't mean to, you click another one, and just anyone automatically pull that, instead of reducing typing, fat fingering, if you spell court without the U or something, just thinking out loud.
When that form is going to symbolize.
Right, so that part
I
doesn't
guess,
matter.
I guess, so,
but,
yeah, because there'll be a QAQC process anyways, yeah, okay.
So yeah, filling in the notes, city attorney wanted to have a signature line in there. This was the part that was annoying. Obviously, there isn't there's a spatial component, but not that the user needs. I didn't want to include a geo point, and you don't have to in survey 123. The problem is if you don't, it still generates a generic point at the center of the map, which in Web Mercator is just off the west coast of Africa.
Mhm.
The only reason that's a problem is that once I submit a point, a record here, and Brooke, our person in community services, gets an email about it, she then goes into the manager where she'll change the status and then do all the stuff that she does for setting this up for them. And I have in here the tables of the entries. But in sidebar of these instant apps, I cannot figure out, and I could not find online, the way to turn off extent filter. And so obviously, if our point is off the west coast of Africa, it is not going to show up in my table for reference.
Right.
And I could not figure out
I
how.
don't think you survey 1, 2, 3 to make it a hidden field and give it a whole issue.
That's what you're doing.
But so I did try, I did set a default location and it was still default to the West Coast of Africa, even though I set it to be in the center of city limits. I tried for like a week to get this to not do it. But the only way that I could force it was to include this on here and have the set, now the set is in the middle of Redding. But if I didn't include this, it would go to the West Coast of Africa.
You include it but hide it, or if you hide it.
What if I hide it, that's the problem. I have no idea why. It's just some little glitch oversight, but yeah, that was that's why this is here, making the survey.
We had a related issue with the STEM career day of that web mapping activity. And because we wanted people to pick their school from the map, but then they had to go over and do it on the little map.
Yeah,
It was that same issue.
Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't find a really good solution to it.
So another thing, and it's short on time, but instead of using the instant app, that's pretty filtering based on extent. I know the simplicity of the instant apps are nice, but couldn't you build a real basic experience builder to sift through the data and make modifications also? And then does it all victim to the extent?
I don't know, probably not. So I could rebuild this.
Just food for
in-
thought.
I could, and I mean, I did think of that, just rebuilding an experience builder. The instant apps are just,
Not the end of the world, it just shows them a little map of pointing on, right?
yeah. You know, they want us to use the instant apps, but there just seems to be like.
A little bit perfect.
That's very, very instant.
Yeah, very instant.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is the reason for this ugly map bottom.
So then they submit it, it goes to,
So they submit it, and now we'll cover the actual webhooks. So if your organization already has Teams or some, some software that that provides webhooks, then
so
you're.
Teams has
And
Well, the Teams itself doesn't have webhooks, but if you have Microsoft, and I think you might use like Power Automate, yeah,
Power Automate, yeah.
and I think that you have access to
And,
that.
and for the good of the group, real simple, SAM people on the WebEx, just real quick explanation of what webhooks are.
So I'll also,
Oh,
we can send this out because it's the resource that I.
perfect, okay.
But essentially, it's the way, it provides sort of an interface between two different programs. And for GIS, it's really useful for triggering notifications. Obviously, there's a lot of other things you can do. You can, email, SMS. There's other applications to this, but for GIS purposes, triggering a notification, because we get a lot of that now with people wanting to, like, can we get a notification of when something gets submitted, especially if it's public facing and they're receiving like public records, knowing when it comes through.
Is Mike getting an email?
What's that?
She's getting an email on this?
Yeah. Also, another one that we're using this for, well, so there's the sign up. There's also been, they need to report their cleanups. That's
See one for each of them.
Yeah. And then there's also, at the last FNRDC meeting, I mentioned the trail issue reporter that we put together for parks, and RTA, Redding Trail Alliance, also uses it.
So they get,
They get an email notification when there's a new issue reported as well. So yeah, if you have some kind of service provider that includes webhooks, or if you're just using a webhook provider, well, it has to be one that's compatible with every software. So if we have a webhook provider, because people get automated emails, but none that, I can't remember what ours were, it's not Microsoft, none that were compatible with Survey 123. So Power Automate works. The one that we used, and the one that's easiest if your organization, if you're limited in funds, is Make. And what's nice about this is you can create a free account. The free accounts are limited. You only get 5,000 or maybe 10,000 operations, they call them. So I'm not entirely sure what constitutes an operation, but I think it's just like a sign up. If someone sends a sign up, you get like 10,000 of those actions. And you also only get 2 scenarios. So you can only set up 2 of these processes.
So real quick, I'm gonna add to this real briefly. From the conference, I'm learning more and more about this make tool, and seems like to be a really powerful tool. City of Burbank uses it for their inspection programs, and they use
Yeah.
make, where they scrape data from their inspections off of ArcGIS Online and push it to their production data sets in their SDE database. So this make tool, beyond just webhooks, I know personally I want to explore more, but it seems like it has a lot of power with, like Dave said, integrating with like different applications together.
Yeah, and we'll run through this real quick, creating a scenario, and when we go to the actual trigger of what action gets triggered, we'll do an email, but you'll see the list is really long. So there's, obviously I've only used it for email, but there's certainly a lot more you could explore there. But yeah, this is really nice if you just have a couple things and you don't have money to pay for it. It's free for 2 scenarios. If something is going to be under 10,000 operations per
Do you have
month,
three
I
days
think.
in each of those operations?
We have 3 because they have that grant for this.
Oh, you guys-
And
you
we
got a
already,
big account.
yeah, we already had this running and they needed 2, and it's like $8 a month, I think. So they were like, yeah, we'll cover it. So they covered our bank account. So anyway, that is, what you could use it for, and on the cheap. So we'll run through a scenario. Again, Steve, we'll have you push this out. It gives you a step-by-step.
Oh, and this is integrating with make.
Yes,
I have a-
they also have it with Power Automate, but, yeah, they have it with me.
Fantastic, okay.
So we're gonna create a scenario. This is gonna be survey. And we want to watch. So you'll have to create a make account. And then you set up an actual webhook. So leave it here. And then you'll have to connect to your account and you would add there for your account. It's pretty straightforward on
Like
that.
having to sign anything kind of makes that connect. That's pretty straightforward.
Yep. So,
And those instructions will have a lot more, those broken down details.
yeah, they don't, when you go into add, the pop-up windows are very clear about like, you just essentially sign into GIS Online account.
Okay. Oh, and so you set that to an add, not edit, okay.
Yes. Okay. And then obviously you need to set that, okay. And then here is where you can see they have a big, long list of actions that this can trigger. Or sorry, not actions, but programs that it can interface with. You just want email.
Like DIY Zapier,
What's that?
like DIY Zapier, you build stuff, the link that you want to have.
Yes, yeah. Didn't just go to.
Your one for like Outlook.
Yeah, one
Change or Outlook.
No, it's literally, it says email. That's what's weird. There it is. So we want to send an email. This is the only part that you could have issues with. I did, if your firewall doesn't enable you to, so I tried to set it up, sending from my email account, and we had security issues doing that. So I had to create a generic email account, which is this GIS automated.
So you have IT create that for you.
Yeah, and so it's like actually outside the city domain,
Mhm.
and so you'd have to, you create that and then, you'd have to set it up here. It's not like a big lift or anything, it's just if you have the security issues, you have to create an account that's outside. Yeah.
Google account or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be Outlook, it can be anything that's outside of your firewall. Save message. Here. Stu's gonna. You can get fancy with the messages that come through. I have it just set to plain text, just because it's really just letting her know what's coming through. And for the sake of time, this is the part that can be like a little confusing, getting the format, the actual email correct, because obviously everything from the service comes through. So we're mostly interested in the attributes, obviously. And so I will put in everything, but we'll just say. You can add attachments if you need.
If someone sends a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, you can put that in there. So where this could be, this obviously isn't like a high priority thing, but where this could be really useful is you can add a filter. So, if you've got something like REU, obviously you have your own systems, but if you were to set this up and there was like a high priority service call or something like that, you could set up a filter. Like we don't need notifications for everything. We only need notifications for high priority. I don't have anything in there obviously for that, but you could say priority, severity, whatever. And then it's supposed to be high priority, whatever. And so it'll only send you the high priority calls.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like we don't need notifications for for low severity calls. You could just have this send you medium or high or whatever.
You do the high to the managers and the low to everybody.
Mhm.
What's that?
You could do that. You would probably need to add a separate trigger, I think. Yes, there's definitely, you could definitely set it up that way. Yeah,
Two different scenarios.
yeah, that might need to be a different scene.
Can you have multiple bubbles coming off the right of that green one?
I think that maybe not. I can set it up this way, but so that's why I think you might need to create a scenario. They probably, and they want you to pay for the account, so they probably don't want you to be able to create too many scenarios within one scenario. Okay, so that's it. If you're just doing a basic email notification, that's it in a nutshell. I'll save it. And so you can have it running, and a way to test this is, we'll hit run once. This.
The signature you can't draw it.
Yeah. That seemed kind of, I don't know, the city attorney thought that was good to add in, and I was just sort of like, that really. And in the email thing, it's like, you don't actually have to put it in all emails, but whatever.
I mean, is this perpetually running in the background? Obviously, perpetually running in the
Yeah,
background.
so you have it, well, everything looks now, but you have the scheduling here, you'll just turn it on, it's just always on. Just for testing, I would do the run once. I'm not sure why it's not triggering at the moment.
Maybe it has to start the looking for data after you.
In the
But there
survey
it
was
is.
3, that was available. Did you tell it which survey?
Yeah, and so in that drop-down list, it said to adopt the spot, sign up.
Right, so it was for new records.
So normally this, if you do It's also like the interface looks kind of weird. It's,
Did you save it or can you refresh and see if it all do it?
yeah,
Restart.
well. So here's the actual one that's set up. I wonder if I added my email addresses here right now.
You're gonna purge this, you're gonna purge this data and when you're done.
Uh,
You're gonna purge this demo data when you're done.
Purchase the demo. deal.
Purge, get rid of.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah.
It's not watching it that closely, where she's like, oh, better give him,
Yeah,
oh, let's get. Steve, don't.
we got, when you should go to your email now and check to see if it's there.
Well, it should be. coming.
Oh, it actually has an action that you'd see it come through.
I guess I've never actually seen it while it's on scheduled, but when I was doing the testing and you hit run once, then it would, then you would see, like it getting triggered. There we go. Oh, and the other one did eventually come through, I guess. So here's the actual, our actual email setup. So Brooke will have these details, and then there's also the instant app, the table in the instant app that she can reference.
And then, you know, the signature, does that come through as an attachment or you're not including that?
I don't have that included now.
Okay.
Still in the data set, it's still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then if you go back to your experience builder app, you can show how like the navigation between the different programs in the map. I thought that was always, it was pretty slick, and the way you.
Oh, yeah, so
The
the
way you
way
had it
you said here, the actual design.
You actually edit.
Well, yeah, in the manager app. So if she drill down, edit. This is the process that she has found out.
So
That
are we
would be
green, green roads for every taking? Can you?
And then she'll change this to adopted.
I think blue is taken, green.
Blue
is-
taken.
Yeah, green is available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's out of date because right now I don't see one.
Right, so yeah, she hasn't, obviously you can tell she hasn't been updating, because if you look at our entries.
How do they prove that you did your, anything? Do they go and check anything in terms of like, okay, you adopted it now every month, I'm checking to see if you like go out?
So we have, we do have, the other part of this is the, there's another form, cleanup report.
Oh, okay.
So you would come in and this is also accessed from that one, from the website.
Okay.
So decide whether to adopt, we can get rid of this one, they do their sign up. They request supplies, and then once you're done for the cleanup, it comes out to here. Update. Submit, and then there's also a scenario that she gets an email for. Yep. Then we can keep track of who gets time.
That's a survey too.
This is a survey, yeah.
So you have to do one cleanup for you to sign it, what?
You have to do 4.
Okay.
14 years.
Yep.
I think you have to do 4 per year.
Okay.
That's what we used to have to do with adopt a highway, so well, for that long.
I guess you can't do it like a 4-week stretch of going out there. I'm sure they want to see you do it diligently throughout a space of a period of time.
You know, I'm not sure. You might be able to just do that.
Already,
Right?
you really sort of track, yeah.
I'm not sure if it's on the website or not, but,
That's actually Continental that was adopted, that's next to the cemetery right there, is that what that?
Yeah, or was it over by the rodeo? Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
either that or the car continental, yeah.
but that's in a nutshell. So a nice, easy way to do email notifications, which I feel like as we just create more and more of these data collection apps, it's just more demand for it.
So you have an adoptive manager.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
It's Sam from Melissa said take off, makes a great presentation, yeah.
Adoptive manager app, you have the front end survey that's in that experience builder. You have a survey for what I need to clean up. What other ones are in there that are survey forms I think you had to build?
So those are the only 2 surveys.
Okay.
And then there is the manager instead app.
So it's got surveys and.
Oh, and then go back to your map, you never navigate between the different maps on your survey form or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then just-
So if
yeah.
you.
They're technically different maps.
Yeah, but,
Like
Or trail.
views or something, yeah.
oh, there's a lot of adopted trails, that's nice. Wow,
Link out to the actual.
all of Clover Creek Preserve is adopted, that's cool.
And they can see what, this is them seeing what's already been adopted.
Yeah.
And then if they click
So
on
if you
it,
want to adopt a trail, you
And
know,
then
like,
it-
okay, well, I can't already leave the river trail, so.
so if you click on, say, the 10 Bridges Trail there, I forget if that's what's called anymore. Actually, go to the right, that's the new one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So does it
Yeah.
say now, oh, see, now it doesn't, so here it says been adopted, but we're not showing who's actually done the adoption.
Yeah, they didn't want shown in there like
Okay.
who it was,
Who it was.
which I thought was kind of weird, I don't know.
Since we can go see the sign anyway.
Yeah.
Scrape all the data of all the adoptions, and maybe that's a little different.
I didn't see any harm in showing who had adopted it. but
Give them some credit.
They just wanted to do the bare bones, so. Did what the customers want.
So go build this, they came to you, or you found this and then say, hey,
Yeah, Kim Niemer is the director of community services, and we've got a pretty good relationship with her, and so they reached out, and, well, she reached out to see if there were any tools that we could provide. I think she probably, when they saw the city of Seattle's, they saw like Survey 123, they probably like recognized it as a product that we offer them.
And you just kind of get status reference to kind of go, oh, here's how they kind of built it out and the page, or they did the page.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of used that. Like I said, their process was a little bit different. They didn't have the sign up form. They had this weird draw in. And, you know, they had it for the streets. They only wanted, like collectors and arterials, whereas Seattle could draw in like streets if they wanted to. So I think it was pretty much everything. I didn't exactly like their process, so that's why I changed it up.
You said they didn't want local streets just because of too much to manage maybe, or like any
Yeah.
sign, I guess that would be kind of weird, sign everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
And we don't have that much big of a problem with the residential stuff, I guess, but.
Yeah, I guess that they wanted to sort of narrow it down for the streets that, versus, except for some areas, the neighborhood streets are probably mostly pretty clean.
A lot of signs by too.
Right.
Well, thank you, Dave.